Hello my people, welcome to another mixing tutorial. Let's take a look at the tones in my cover of Mikasa. Definitely some awesomeness in this one. I was lucky enough to catch Veil of Maya live in December and watch this song live, and it is a certified banger. I was really happy with that moment of my 2019. Let's get to some tones. I will disable my master bus effects because I mix without them on, so you'll see what sounds I'm going for as I heard them when I was mixing the song up. But I will leave the limiter on so that there's no big jump in loudness when I add them later. So you're listening to basically the same thing. There'll be just some cutting of the kick and snare on the limiter. You'll see later. Let's talk about the drum sound, which is my usual Periphery 4 drum sound. So I have an in-depth tutorial about this drum sound on my YouTube page. You just look up GGDP4 demo and review, and you'll see a very detailed explanation of how I mix this kit. I think it's exactly like it was on the mixing tutorial. There were just some changes, which were, since this is a very fast metalcore song, I took down the snare on the rooms, probably the kick too, almost none, and the toms too. And I left the room to add ambience to the cymbals only, basically. You'll see why. I'll actually demonstrate why. See, that's a good roomy snare, but if it were something like this, all of a sudden, on these fast parts, you'll hear nothing but snare on the room. So we're looking for something balanced, roomy, but balanced. It might sound like a lot in solo, but as soon as you add other stuff, that's such a drastic difference. So this is actually how you should decide on how roomy your snare is, either with reverb or with sending to the room on your sampler. You should have all the instruments going. So when you pull up a drum mix, always get some instruments going and go back to check these different roominess elements that always get eaten up by bass and distorted guitars. So be sure to check the GGD P4 review video for the full rundown on every plugin. And we'll just skip to bass after I taught you that cute lesson on drum roominess. This is our bass sound. I am very happy with it because it has fresh strings. Fresh bass strings is the key. I could literally not use any plugins. And it would be a good bass sound. That's how important new strings are. But I only change them once every 9 months, so it's not often that I get fresh strings on a cover, so I'm very excited. I ran it through the usual. This is Joel Wanasek Bus Glue Bass by Joey Sturgis Tones. It's a all-in-one bass solution that compresses the low end and the top end separately, as you'll see here. Then you can adjust their levels. And you can add distortion to the top one. I never liked distortion B, but now with fresh strings, I'm sure I'll be using it sometime. So this is basically what I had. Oh, shit. And this plugin has a very important feature that is, whenever you're mixing metal or rock, the big low end decision is, do you choose a kick drum that's more focused on the 70 to 100 hertz area and put the bass on the subs, or do you choose a subby kick drum with focus on the 50s and 60s and put the bass up above an 80 up above, right? And here's where you can choose, based on your mix decision, what harmonics the plugin generates to make sure that the bass correctly fits the kick. And I have a kick that's focused on 50 hertz, focused on the sub region. And so I should put the bass on above the kick. And I rendered it with below kick. So that explains something I was hearing where the bass was a little bit indistinguishable from the kick drum. So there you go. I actually rendered the song with a not too big of a mistake. The notes are still there, but there you go. Always check, like this would be an EQ decision if I didn't have the plugin. It would be mostly a filter decision. So right now it's on above kick. It would have a filter like this, maybe at 50, and it would be focused on this 90 area. But the way I rendered it below kick is probably something like high pass at 30 and then a boost at like 60. This sounds great, but it's gonna mess with my kick drum because they're on the same frequency range. So there's something for you to think about if you have this plugin, and if you don't, just the way it matches your kick drum is the most important low-end relationship. And I fucked up. I'm gonna leave it there anyways. It doesn't sound too bad. That's why, now it makes sense, I found myself needing to add some of the 70 hertz region here on R bass because I felt like it was missing. So it's a very, very tiny amount of it. I overdid it for you to hear. But it makes a big, big difference. And that's what I was missing, and this was why. So, well, I'm learning. I love to learn every single day. Then, of course, I thought it was too subby, so I filtered stuff that was below 40 hertz. Of course, I thought there was subby stuff because I had the wrong button on. Good job. So this is me making a fool out of myself on camera for your knowledge and entertainment. That's interesting. This EQ, this is a mid-range dip. This is independent of my past mistake. This is just to remove some honkiness that the Joel Wanasek bus glue bass has in this region. That's cool for some stuff, not for this song. Very fast song. I want to leave mid-range space to the detail of the guitars. So let's move on to the guitars. All right. So the guitar tone of choice is the SS11X today by Mercurial. And it's basically the stock setting. Turn on the noise gate, turn on the drive pedal, stock impulse response, lead channel, and then I just take a little bit of bass and mids off. That is it. I messed with the back panel here, trying different triodes. I think this one, the 6N, sounded a little bit more hi-fi, more high-endy, which I liked, but it's basically stock settings. Sounds like this. Very cool. But we're gonna take a big EQ move here. Listen for it. That's right. That's a very important mid-range boost. Let me mute my phone. There you go. There is a filter so that there's no low end beneath 80, and that there's a high end roll off starting at 8K, and then there's a boost at 8K for some nice sparkle, but the important one is this boost at around 1.6 on the mid-range. It looks like it's tiny, but hear it. This is what's giving the guitars its mid-range presence. So a very important move for this tone, at least. Then it's just filters again, because the SSL filters, they're like very, very soft filters that leave a lot of it on. They just make it a bit more musical. And after those, I like to hit them with a harder one. So there's another one at 80 with a slope of 18 decibels per octave, and a high one at 9.5K with a slope of 24. There you can hear how aggressively the slope can cut if I went below that. A compressor, I always like the compressor on guitars because palm mutes are naturally louder than the rest of the guitar chords, and it's good that there's a compressor that tells the guitars, yo, if you go past this volume, I'm not going to let you. And that's what this is doing. The chorus should be a good example. You can see it kills the palm mutes a little bit. A little bit of an EQ dip at 250 to make sure the low mid-range isn't boomy. Just a bit. And the tiniest boost at 700 for more mid-range. It just thins out the sound a little bit to make it fit the music. And then my secret weapon on guitars is always the Brainworks Refinement Harshness Control. It dampens the harsh 3K area in a nice dynamic way. It saturates the tone a little bit to give it body, and it gives presence in a better region around the 6K area. Oh, a before and after should show you what it's doing. On a sustained chord. Subtle stuff, but it all adds up. Let's go to the clean guitars in that break. So that's a split coil on the bridge pickup. That is the bridge pickup on the single coil mode. Clean tone is the SS11X again. So what we're doing here is changing the IR to a V31 because it has some mid-range and it's not very hi-fi like the first one is. It has a little bit of a more mid-rangey curve instead of this really bright and really bassy one from the greenbacks. Take down a little bit of bass, and then it's all about some EQing to make it fit. So a filter up to 120 hertz, make sure that there's no boominess on the bass, and a high-end filter starting at 8K, make sure there's no string snap that is too aggressive. There's a cut at 200 hertz too, that sounds like this. Just to thin it out a little bit, and a compressor to make sure that none of the strums poke out. Actually, this compressor is working super hard, but it's okay because of the synths and bass. It helps it blend in. So let's talk about this chorus lead. Nice and pleasant. The way we begin this is by adding a little micro shift to the DI. It just makes it nice and stereo to get out of the way of the center. The lead tone is again the SS11X. We have the stock IR, same as the rhythms to help it blend into them. And then we're on the crunch mode. So the rhythm is on the lead mode and we're going to be on the crunch mode with reduced gain and a little bit less bass and mids. Sounds like a bit of a mess because there's a lot of sub information floating around in the chorus, and we get that out with a filter at 200 Hertz and a high-end one at 7K, as well as a strategic cut at 5.8K. That sounds terrible. Makes it way more easy to listen to. We just need to fit it into a space. So 8-second reverb at 30% mix. Good stuff. Stereo delay at 40% mix, so pretty big. And a nice amount of feedback so that it repeats often. As you just heard me activate, more filters to control the fizz and the rumble, and a very good boost of the 500 frequency. This is the kind of stuff that you want to boost that mid-range in to make sure it cuts through. So after that, there is one lead that only shows up in the breakdown. It's the same sound, but there is no micro shift as a chorus before the amplifier, so it's on the center except for the reverb and delay. Great, so that's it. All we have left is some synths at the break. Literally straight out of Union. This is this little synth I got. There's just a sine wave. As simple as it can be. And then an EQ to get rid of subs beneath 60 so that this part is not very, very heavy on bass and it makes the chorus after it sound smaller, which can happen. So beware of the sub frequency on your synths. And then some strings straight out of Sony Vox's orchestral companion. No effects. They aren't the most realistic strings, so that's why they work good as a background element, without any EQ. After that, some explosions. Very important on the choruses. I took some mid-range out of them because the song is very busy and we need all the mid-range we can get for guitar detail. So I scooped them a bit. There is a riser sample before the choruses. Sounds lame as shit. There's just filters on it. It originally sounds like this. But that has unnecessary bass and unnecessary cymbal. So this was good enough for me with the filters. And on the breakdowns, there's a little snare sample that helps it be bigger. Can you guys hear it? It's just this. Such a tasty sounding snare. This is from a free pack, actually. I don't know if it's free anymore, by George Lever. So if you look up George Lever free samples, they should be there. He's the guy that produced Sleep Token, so you know he makes good sounding shit. That is the mixing tutorial for today, guys. Thank you so much for supporting and watching these. Be sure to watch all the previous ones because your support covers access to all of them. Take care.